When you think of India, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Technology? Yoga? A Bollywood dance scene breaking out at a wedding? Well, what if I told you there's way more fun to the story? Like stadiums packed to the brim for cricket matches more intense than your last breakup. Or movies with plots that'll make your head spin, in the best way, and the why behind all of it. Mind-blowing. After some research and talking to friends, we're diving into totally unexpected things you didn't know about India. Culturally, emotionally, and psychologically. From the IPL cricket craze that's basically a national holiday, to why Bollywood heroes always seem to cry and fight at the same time. These facts, game changers. There are more, but these are the ones that'll make you say, wait, what? I didn't know that. So there I was at my friend Raj's house for dinner last month, thinking I knew a thing or two about India. I mean, I'd already seen Slumdog Millionaire, I'd eaten Indian food before, and I'd even practiced yoga occasionally. I was basically an expert, right? But after some research and talking to friends, I realized that I was wrong, so very, very wrong. When Raj's family erupted into a passionate debate about something called IPL, I sat there nodding along, completely lost. Cricket, as it turns out, isn't just a sport in India, it's almost like a religion. And I had just committed the cultural equivalent of walking into it blind. Father said with a kind smile, "Do you follow cricket at all?" The silence that followed my blank stare was educational. Let me tell you something, friend. There's nothing quite like the humbling experience of realizing that what you think you know about a culture is basically a tourist brochure version of reality. It's like thinking you understand the ocean because you splashed around in a kiddie pool. But here's the fascinating thing. Our brains are literally wired to create shortcuts and stereotypes. It's how we make sense of a complex world. Those mental shortcuts, what the brain folks call cognitive schemas, help us to navigate life without having to analyze every single thing we encounter. But they can also trap us in a shallow understanding. But anyway, today we're diving into the psychology behind why we think we understand other cultures when we really don't. And I'll share some genuinely mind-blowing things about India that changed my perspective completely. Let's start with cricket. This isn't just baseball's complicated cousin. The Indian Premier League, or IPL, is watched by over 200 million people. That's like 2/3 of the entire US population, all watching the same thing. The psychology behind this national obsession? It creates what social scientists call collective effervescence. It's that magical feeling of being united with others in a shared experience. When India wins a cricket match, the entire country celebrates together. Streets fill with people, strangers hug, and for a moment, all differences disappear. That's powerful. It's the same psychological mechanism that makes us feel connected at concerts or religious ceremonies. Our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, when we share emotional experiences with others. Thank you for hanging out on the couch and helping us grow. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications of future episodes. Your support means the world. Okay, so now back to India. Now let's talk Bollywood. I used to think it was just over-the-top movies with random dance scenes, but friend, I was missing the forest for the trees. Bollywood isn't just entertainment, it's a cultural force that shapes values, fashions, and even politics across the entire subcontinent. Did you know that one of Bollywood's biggest stars has over 42 million Twitter followers? That's more than most world leaders. The psychological pull to these cultural icons creates what Dr. Francis, that smart cookie who studies how we think, calls parasocial relationships, those one-sided connections we feel with celebrities that seem strangely real. Here's where it gets interesting. These seemingly superficial cultural phenomena, cricket and Bollywood, actually reveal profound truths about human psychology. Take the collective identity that cricket creates. When millions of Indians cheer for their national team, they're experiencing what our old bearded Siggy F, you know who I'm talking about, would call a manifestation of group superego, a shared moral compass, and identity that transcends individual differences. My friend Raj explained that during major cricket matches, crime rates actually drop nationwide. Everyone is watching. That's the power of cultural unity. It temporarily overrides our individual self-interest. Pretty amazing, right? But here's the thing. My ignorance about cricket didn't just make me miss out on interesting facts, it made me miss an entire dimension of understanding my Indian friends. When I started asking questions and learning about cricket, our conversations deepened. Suddenly I could understand references, jokes, and cultural touchpoints that had gone completely over my head. This is what those mind scientists call cultural intelligence. It's the ability to relate effectively across cultural boundaries. And it turns out it's one of the strongest predictors of success in our globally connected world. So what are some other cool things about India that my research helped me to discover that completely blew my mind? India has the world's largest postal network with over 155,000 post offices. Many are in remote villages where a single postman might walk miles to deliver mail. Talk about dedication. The Indian film industry produces over 1,800 films annually in 20 languages, more than twice what Hollywood makes. This diversity reflects the country's incredible linguistic and cultural variety. India pioneered plastic surgery over 2,600 years ago. Ancient Indian physicians performed reconstructive surgeries using skin graft techniques that weren't discovered in Western medicine until centuries later. And get this, India has the world's largest vegetarian population. About 38% of Indians are vegetarian, creating an amazing culture of plant-based cuisine that dates back thousands of years. So what's the psychology behind my cultural blind spot? What the thought wizards call unconscious bias. We don't know what we don't know, and worse, we don't know that we don't know it. It's like having a blind spot on your mental highway, dangerous because you can't see it. So how to fix this blind spot? Here's my 3-step approach that transformed my understanding. Number 1, curiosity over confidence. Instead of assuming you know about a culture, approach with questions. When I started asking Raj about cricket, instead of nodding along pretending to understand, everything changed. Number 2, seek primary sources. Watch movies actually made in the country you're learning about. Read books by local authors. Follow social media accounts from people who actually live there. My understanding of India deepened when I started following Indian news sources instead of just reading foreign interpretations. And number 3, connect with people. Nothing beats personal connections. When I started asking my Indian friends to explain things to me, admitting my ignorance instead of hiding it, they were delighted to share their culture. The psychological benefit? My brain formed new neural pathways, literally rewiring my understanding. Those science folks in lab coats call this neuroplasticity, but I call it mind expansion therapy, and it feels good. All right, that's it for today's episode of Couch Tales, Why We Do What We Do. I'm your host, Analia. If you like this episode, please take a moment to follow us. Click that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and please drop me a comment. I want to hear your feedback on this. Until next time, friend, stay curious, stay kind, and maybe catch an IPL match. Your brain will thank you. And click above for the next episode.